Welcome, fellow commanders. I'm the Wacky Commander, and this is the first video on my channel. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope we can make some wacky decks together. Today we are going full Lorax because we speak for the trees, and by that I mean all our creatures become trees, with one of my favorite commanders, Yedora the Gravetender. They are a mono-green commander that's 1 green and 4 generic mana to cast for a 5/5 legendary creature, Treefolk Druid, that says, whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may return it to the battlefield face down under its owner's control. It's a forest land. Now, we can do a lot of ridiculous things with this commander, and one of the biggest facilitators for wacky interactions are the morph and megamorph mechanics. Due to the wording on this commander, if any creature that we control dies and returns to the battlefield face down, we can pay its megamorph cost or its morph cost to flip it back over as long as they are not tokens. Cards like Kintree Warden and Proteus Machine with low mana costs can be invaluable combo pieces with other cards like Perilous Foyers, where for little to no mana you can get a ton of ramp by sacrificing them to Perilous Foyers to get a land from your library, put it onto the battlefield, in the process having them come back face down with your commander untapped, then tapping them for mana, and then flipping them back over only to repeat the process. Tons of value. Speaking of ramp, remember that fan favorite card Steve? Now when he so heroically jumps in front of attacking creatures only to sacrifice himself, not only does he get a land, he becomes one himself, getting you 2 for the price of 1, and Burnished Heart, it gives you 3. And green does what green does best, drown its opponents in an avalanche of creatures and value. But with all this mana, what are we going to do with it? I recommend big beaters. Cards like Multani Yavimaya Avatar can take advantage of all the forest you're making, allowing you to use the ridiculous amount of forest you have. Not to mention that if she dies, you can send her to the graveyard and return some of those pieces that can't morph, like Terastodon, Temur War Shaman, and Soul of the Harvest, which is a key piece to get cards in your hand, by the way, back to your hand by using her activated ability from the graveyard. Speaking of getting your forest back to your hand, 2 includes in this deck that can't go without mention are Kirin Ranger and Scrib Ranger. With their abilities to return a forest to your hand to untap a creature once each turn, they can be clutch pieces if you need one of your creatures back from the forest grove. Because let's be honest, you're not going to need forests that much. And with all these cards flipping in and out of the field, we want cards to take advantage of that. With enchantments like Trail of Mystery and Ugin's Mastery, you can take advantage of all these shenanigans by getting more value and bodies onto the board. Also, Whisperwood Elemental can help keep your board state full by manifesting the top card of your library every time one of your other creatures dies, which they will be doing quite frequently. Honestly, this deck can get a little ridiculous when you have creatures like Anok Survivalist and Nantuku Vigilante and Deathless Raptor that can turn face up at instant speed to remove key pieces your opponents control. It can be very difficult to stop you when your machine is online. The final thing to focus on with this commander are the combos, and let me tell you, Yedora goes infinite with a ham sandwich. Any free sack outlet, your commander, and anything that turns your lands into creatures can go infinite with so many other cards. For example, let's say you have your commander on the field. You have a Life and Limb as well. If you have an Astronaut's Altar, you can go infinite with colorless and green mana. If you have an Altar Dementia, that would allow you to deck all your opponents. If you don't have either of those 2 artifacts, by taking a Demon Male Harbuff, your commander, and Proteus Machine, with one other creature you can infinitely sack Proteus Machine, tapping it in its forest form for green mana, flipping it over for 0 to get infinite green mana. There are so many ways to build this commander that this video can't do it justice. When I first made this deck, I made it budget, and I accidentally found 2 infinite combos that I hadn't put in there on purpose. So I encourage you all out there who find this to be an interesting commander to go out and make some wacky decks of your own. Thank you for tuning in. I'm the Wacky Commander, and I hope to see you next time entering the battlefield.